Hey guys, happy, what is it now? 24,000 subscribers? I really don't even know while I'm recording this video, but yeah, I know I hit another one of those. And I'm doing another Q&A for it because people seem to like the Q&As. So we will get started on the first one. Trump the movie. Casting and crew, please, from the history of cinema. What style? 40s noir, 80s blockbuster, 50s musical? That's a really tough one. I don't know about casting and crew. That's tough, and that would take me time to really think about. But I'm kind of gonna go between 80s blockbuster or 50s musical. But I'm thinking go hardcore MGM 1950s musical. Maybe something like Vincent Minnelli directing, maybe Mel Brooks writing it. That would be great, and I would totally see it. Would you rather be a respected director or a respected actress? Oh, no question, a director, respected director. You know, there are certain actors that I really, really do respect. The ones who truly take their craft seriously, the ones who really work hard at their craft and really have a passion for it. But also, I think that there are a lot of actors that just get by, especially in Hollywood. They get by on their looks. And in terms of the big actors, at least, they get paid millions and millions of dollars to just like stand on a mark and read something that someone else wrote in a way that sounds charismatic. And I don't know, that's always just really rubbed me the wrong way. I will say when I was younger, I did want to be an actress, but I think that was just because, you know, when you're a kid and you watch movies, that's like, you know, that's the thing, that's the selling point. And so it's like, oh, so you think, if you want to be involved in movies in some sort of form, you think, well, I got to be an actor. But then you get older and you realize there's a lot more to making a movie. There's a lot more components. So then I got older and realized, well, I'm interested in a lot more than just the acting. You know, I'm interested in the art direction and the cinematography and the scoring and the writing and all this stuff. And I don't know, I always felt like, you know, a director has a hand in all of that. So it's more a conceptual sort of ideology that's important there. It's more cerebral, I think, than acting overall. Sometimes acting can be very cerebral, but overall, I don't know, I've always felt I would work better behind the scenes. What's a canceled movie project you wish made it to fruition? My choices are Guillermo del Toro's The Mountain of Madness and Chris Cunningham's Neuromancer. I mean, there's tons of them. So many. There's a lot of Orson Welles projects that I wish had come to fruition that didn't. But his reputation could only carry him so far at a certain point. And I just think he was way too ahead of his time. So that's really unfortunate. I would have loved to see Aryan Papers, which would have been Stanley Kubrick's Holocaust film. And the only reason he didn't make it, or one of the main reasons he didn't make it, was because Steven Spielberg was making Schindler's List at the same time. You know, I'm not a fan of Schindler's List because I feel like, you know, I do love Steven Spielberg at times. I think he's fantastic at a certain thing. But I just feel like when he tries to tackle really dark, heavy subjects like this, he does it in such a Hollywood way, you know, so soft and so like unwilling to explore real darkness and boldness. A lot of European directors are not afraid to really delve into darkness, you know, like you look at a movie like Come and See, and it's just like unrelenting, just the horrors of it, because, you know, they're trying to show you that war is a horrific thing, whereas American movies a lot of the times are more like gung-ho, yeah, war is awesome. And I think it was Terry Gilliam who once said about Schindler's List that the Holocaust is about failure, but Schindler's List is about success. And I thought that absolutely nailed it, and that absolutely nails Spielberg and his point of view. Too soft, too Hollywood, and I think Stanley Kubrick is one of the American filmmakers who could have really done something very haunting and very powerful, especially because as he got older in his career, you know, he got more abstract, more attached from the emotional qualities of film. And I think that would have been kind of an interesting dichotomy to explore. So I think that's one of the projects that is very sad that it never materialized. But I think my number one, and I know this is like, if this movie did actually work and it actually did come to fruition, it would have been a mess. It would have been such chaos, and yet I want it. Alejandro Jodorowsky was supposed to make Dune, or had been in the talks to make Dune, and he was going to do it with like a Pink Floyd soundtrack, and he was going to have everybody from like Salvador Dali to Mick Jagger to Orson Welles in the movie, and yeah, it just sounds like pure madness, but because it's Alejandro Jodorowsky, I can only imagine what that would have been like. Even if it just fell flat on its face, it would have been interesting from beginning to end. Every frame would be unique, and it's Dune. So I don't know, I just think that would have been Fabulous. Do you separate the art from the artist in terms of actors and directors, or does that taint the film experience for you? I personally can, but I know people boycott films or music due to not liking the person involved in making them. The only time I boycott is if it's a business and my action directly contributes to their success. Yeah, I'm with you, Stephen. I am one of those people where I can separate the art from the artist. And I think the reason why I can is because, it's not like I'm doing a channel on ethics here. I'm not doing a channel on the court of law. This is art that we're discussing here. And the wonderful thing about art is that it opens up into all these very gray areas. No one ever said art had to be moral. And that's part of what I find so interesting about discussing it. It's an ability to tap into the human psyche in all different types of forms, whether you have done a lot of moral things or a lot of immoral things, or if you're just mixed and you're flawed like all of us. We've all done things that, if they were revealed to the public, would probably be very humiliating and tarnish our reputations. I'm going to use the example of Roman Polanski, and I know I'm probably going to get killed for this, but I don't care. He's one of my favorite directors. And when you look at his life, he's had such a horrific life. There some terrible things, absolutely terrible things have happened to him. But at the same time, he's done some things that, of course, a lot of people, including myself, find to be morally reprehensible. I don't approve of his actions. That being said, I think that he's very interesting as a director, and I think that there's a lot in him, though maybe not outwardly on the surface, and he'll never talk about it, which I do appreciate. A lot of his movies are exploring a lot of the depth and darkness of how he sees the world. And, I can look at a movie like The Pianist as an example, and, that's maybe more a literal example of him talking about his childhood and how it's shaped him. But, I feel like he's exploring a lot of his morality and his identity in Chinatown, which is, considered one of his great films. And, of course, he's done what he's done to an underage young lady. And yet, he makes movies like Rosemary's Baby with a character at the center, a female character who is very repressed, and she's constantly trying to fight for her identity in such a way that is incredible. And I think it's one of the great female protagonists in American movies, especially at that time. You look at Repulsion, also kind of exploring the female's point of view and the things that cause her own self-destruction in a way that, quite frankly, very few directors can do. And so I've always found that dichotomy interesting, that, he's done this one particular thing, and yet in a lot of ways I feel like as a woman I can tell you, because, I understand it, but he really gets the woman's point of view. And it's so interesting, that idea. And you wonder what he's trying to explore in terms of the female experience, and why, and what has it been fueled by. Even when you look at terrible historical figures, Stalin or Hitler or whatever, you're still very fascinated by them. You don't just go, I hate what they did, so I don't want to know about them, and I don't want to know that they exist. It's like, no, it's interesting to explore these sorts of things, especially in an artistic context. Because that we're all human, and we all somehow have the capabilities within us to feel these things or experience these things, but we maybe don't. And so through art, we can really explore that, see how someone else sees the world. And I just think that's very unique. So yes, I think it's very important to an extent to separate the art from the artist. What are your thoughts on the work of Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton? I've noticed you haven't talked very much about them on your channel. And whose style of physical comedy do you prefer? Oh, that's easy. Buster Keaton, not even a contest. I love them both very much, and Charlie Chaplin is amazing. Somebody who was very provocative and who was extremely versatile, had so much talent. Not only was he performing in it, not only was he a great physical comedian and just an amazing performer, and very graceful, as well as, doing the music and writing it and directing it. And there's such a power to his films, a really beautiful sentiment, but at the same time, I feel like Buster Keaton doesn't have to ask for the sentiment in such a fashion. I think that he's more interesting with his deadpan comedy. It's more unique, it leaves me something to chew on more, and yeah, I find his physical comedy to be extraordinary. If you don't know Buster Keaton, just look up his stunts on YouTube. I'm sure there's plenty of montages. He's amazing. He was so fearless, just so innovative, and yeah, his style of comedy is absolutely brilliant. More subtle, than Charlie Chaplin, but to me, so much more nuanced in a lot of ways. I look at movies like Sherlock Jr. that I love. 1 Week is a great short film. If you ever just have like 20 minutes to kill, watch it. It is wonderful and so, so funny. The General is maybe his most technically ambitious, and he did a lot of technically ambitious things. You know, he was somebody who was very interesting in exploring special effects very, very early on. Again, this is the silent era, so if you look at all of that, I think that Buster Keaton was the true master. Maybe not known to the extent of Chaplin, just because I think, you know, he doesn't have the mustache and the hat and the cane and all of that, but I don't know, I like him more. Where does your internet handle come from? Oh, that's a good question. Well, if you look at the URL, you will see it says /loaderlovermr, and that was my original YouTube name before I even started this as a movie review channel, and I just called it that because I was a huge Lord of the Rings fan. But then I got a little bit older, and of course I changed quite a bit. And so I decided to use the deep focus lens alias because in college I was really obsessed with Orson Welles, and I love his, you know, just his cinematography, like his point of view and that depth of field that he loved so much. And I love major depth of field just in photography. It's very cinematic to me and very interesting. And so yeah, that's why. I just literally was like, oh, deep focus lens, that would be kind of cool. I didn't think too hard about it, but now that I look at it, I'm like, you know, I think it really does fit me, because even just in my reviews, I tend to go a little bit more in depth and exploring a little bit more than your typical review does. So, you know, worked out. And this is a good segue, I think. Your videos now go into much more detail than your reviews when you first started. How did you improve at film criticism? I really don't know. I feel like I did all of the work before I did the YouTube channel, or a lot of the work. And I did a lot of studying film and a lot of studying film history. And I read a lot of film criticism and books on film history and criticism. And I don't know. I feel like for a while, I would look at different people that I admired, you know, specific writers, and I would try to mimic their style, because that's something that I think is good to do. If you really like a writer, you know, really study them. And it's okay to mimic them at first, because maybe that can help you find your own voice. And I think now I don't have to read any of it, unless I want to, of course, because I feel like I'm confident enough in my own voice. But I will say, I think it's just the habit of doing it a lot. You just get better at it. But I don't do anything, or haven't done anything in a really long time, to like brush up on my film criticism. I think part of it is you just get older and you become more confident in your point of view. You become good at expressing yourself as you get older, just because you're more knowledgeable, more experienced as a human being, and that, you know, fuels the way that you speak about things. It colors your opinions. Pick one film where you get to keep the lead, but all the other actors are replaced by Muppets. Oh my god, there's a ton that would be amazing. Like I feel like I don't want to, like, whatever I'm going to say, I'm going to think of something later that's going to be infinitely more interesting. But off the top of my head, I'm thinking something like Aguirre, the Wrath of God would be cool, just to see like Aguirre in the center around all these Muppets. That would be wonderful. I'd love to see like a Jodorowsky movie with Muppets. That would be pretty cool. A Gaspar Noé film. I want to go real twisted and disturbing, so something like Into the Void or Climax, so you have a bunch of Muppets tripping on acid and killing each other. So yeah, I'm gonna go with something like that. That is a fantastic question. More questions like that, but we'll leave it at that. That is my Q&A for this particular milestone, and we'll do it again pretty soon. Thank you guys so much for watching. All of my Patreon supporters are here. Thank you guys so much. If you like art and you like supporting artists, I am an artist myself, and I do commission portraits, and I sell prints, originals of my work, and it's all under deepfocuslens.com. The link is below if you want to explore it. If you're interested in any commissions or getting prints, just DM me, email me. I have my email below, and I'm happy to talk to you, work with you. And beyond that, all of my social media is below. You can watch more videos here, and you can subscribe if you want to. Catch you next time.